Good day everyone, so hope you're all doing really well. Genshin Impact is heading in a very good direction from a combat perspective, and there are three things that I feel have enabled this, of which the Cryo Traveler is a very big part and obviously the main subject to today's video. So basically, Genshin Impact has given us the ability to redeem constellations for some of the older units in the game if you own that unit just by playing the game. But what compounds on this is the fact that some of these old units, a subset of them, have gotten buffs. And these buffs are either Hexarray or more topically Stellar Glimmer buffs that are relevant in the Snezhnaya region. Now this is where the Cryo Traveler really then kind of earned their keep. And that is in the sense that the Cryo Traveler is all you need in order to take full advantage of these buffs. So let's just kind of reiterate that. You don't need the new or the latest Snezhnaya units in order to get the most out of an older character that has gotten a buff and that you can power up through their constellations. I think most notably a Resley and a Yaimiko C1. Those are the constellations you really want, and you can tell like it's just like kind of amazing. And obviously some of the standard banner units like Yume Mizuki and Chi-Chi have also gotten buffs, so when you do lose that 50-50, you don't lose it to complete, in air quotes, trash, if you will. You now have a meaningful place to play with these characters. So from an F2P perspective, that is really awesome, but even if you're not an F2P player, you still now have a lot of more optionality. You have a lot more optionality in the teams that you can build. And the best thing about that is that it gives you more reason to experiment and adds a bit of longevity to the game. And that, I think, puts the game in a very healthy perspective. So just having the Cryo Traveler in your party, even if they do nothing, even if you don't press a single button, is such a good thing. But what's even crazier about the Cryo Traveler is the fact that you can get them obviously for free, and you get their signature 5-star weapon just by playing the latest Snezhnaya quest, and you don't have to play that long to get it. So once you get the weapon, you just go to the different statues, hit the statue, and you basically can level up the weapon for free. It doesn't cost Mora, doesn't cost any materials, doesn't cost any resin. And I think that is like a very underrated part, because you genuinely get everything for free. It doesn't cost time or resources, and that I feel is a very good direction. You've enabled all the units and you haven't broken the bank for anyone that is trying to keep up with the game. That is a very good positive direction that we want to see. So now when it comes to actually playing with the Cryo Traveler, you can obviously see I'm playing a variation here with Yaimiko and Yume Mizuki, and I will say that I think generally speaking, at least so far in my testing, when you play with the Stellar Glimmer reactions, you either want to go Cryo and Electro, or Cryo and Animo. You don't really want to mix all three, and from what I'm gathering is that it's mostly relating to the fact that you've got different auras on the enemies. You've got the Cryo aura and the Electro aura, and basically you can't swirl or trigger as many swirl reactions if there's an Electro aura on the enemy as well. So basically the team that I'm playing in the background here is not perhaps the best recommended team. I'm just playing it to show you that you can use all their characters with the Cryo Traveler, and that obviously with their buffs really enable them. And two of those characters are standard characters, which is like pretty cool. And the crazy thing is, if you saw my builds in the beginning, my Cryo Traveler is not even at their full potential yet. So that is crazy. I don't have constellations, don't have all the talent levels, and I certainly don't have the True Moon quest unlocked, because if you watch my channel, you know that I love going out of bounds. So I'm still messing around in the Torres domain. So a future video on that will come up. But okay, just to get back to topic. If you do play with the Cryo Traveler, I think what is cool is maybe using Diona or Beidou, Yaimiko with them, and then maybe using Sandrone for the Stellar Conduct teams. That is generally where I think they fit in really well. You can use a character like Odette, although I do find that she's a bit more useful in the Stellar Swirl reactions, but don't take that as a definite super 100% Furycraft backed answer. That's just what I've seen so far from my testing, and we'll speak about Odette in just a bit. But if you're interested to play the Cryo Traveler in a very good team and you want to do a F2P Stellar Swirl team, Using a C2 Mizuki, I think, is going to give you a very comfortable time. C0 Traveler, as I've got, is going to be perfectly well. Using someone like Sucrose is a very good option, and then someone like Odette. So that's basically the team that I showcased all the builds and stuff in the beginning of the video. More or less, if you can aim for what I have, most likely you'll do better than what I have, and you'll certainly be able to point me at a Chinese player that has the same team and can beat the Abyss in half the time with less constellations. I mean, there are always those players out there. Certainly you can do so, but I think that this team, and you'll see that the team popping up now in the background, is pretty comfy. Now, in terms of being able to do damage, I think unlike the Stellar Conduct teams, this team actually really does depend on the order in which you play your rotation. So it almost felt to me like with the Electro and Cryo, the damage is all about being consistent on the field and getting as much of your abilities off as possible. The order didn't really feel like it mattered that much, except that, of course, if you're playing with Sandrona, you want to give her a bit of field time. But when it comes to this specific Stellar Swirl team, I thought that maybe from at least looking back at the background footage and playing through the Abyss, something like a Traveler E doing a double E on Odette, and then going to Sucrose to do an E, maybe a little bit of a dash cancel if you want, and then going directly into alt. You can alt tab into Mizuki's Elemental Burst, then using her E ability for a couple of seconds, maybe about 8-9 seconds would be good, switching back to Sucrose, and then you can do the Traveler, so basically the Traveler's like normal attacks because they're cryo infused, pretty cool, and then ending off with a Traveler Elemental Burst. And then that would be rotation. You can just then rinse repeat. That is what I've seen from my testing so far, can give you a pretty good damage window. I don't know if there's some other combination with the swirls and so on that can get you a better deal. I think there must be something set with the EM sharing and maybe some of the builds and so on, but we'll figure it out as we go along. By the way, this is the first time with the Stellar, the Stellar Swirl team that I've played the new Abyss, as you can probably tell, like from the rewards that will come up and so on. That's also why I kind of missed here with Coppelius and so on. I didn't know in what order the enemies would appear, so that's why the first half of this video looks a bit better than the second half. But it was kind of fun just to go in blindly and see what we can do with these teams in the Abyss. So do forgive the fact that the gameplay is not as super optimal. But in any case, so I do feel like from a Stellar Swirl perspective, you can see here I've got a mix of the Traveler, a free unit, Sucrose, which has been in the game forever, Yume Mizuki, which has had her own banner, and obviously we've all lost our 50-50s too, and now Odette. I feel like what I've shown you today is also pretty accessible for a lot of free-to-play players. There's no fancy shenanigans going on with the constellations, and you can beat the current content so far very, very comfortably. I think with Stygian Onslaught you'll be able to beat anything except the highest difficulty like for Dire, but we don't know yet like how they've done the HP, so we'll wait for that. And then obviously this also gives you a couple of options for the Imaginarium Theatre. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the direction Genshin has gone in. I think giving us the character there, the Cryo Traveler, is so cool because you can either use their kit or not. You can choose how much of their kit you want to use, and the fact that the Cryo Traveler is pretty simple to pick up and play is a huge help. And I think, of course, the Odette herself is also a very simple character. You can just double E on Odette, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing more complicated to the character other than ensuring you've got a decent artifact build. So with the start of Nishnaya, I'm very positive about the combat developments that I've seen. I think this is certainly something that I really like, because when we've had Natlan, it almost felt like you had to get the new Natlan characters for the Night Soul to, well, A, have fun in the overworld. Not that I think the Saurians were too bad, but it's kind of bad that you didn't have a lot of optionality, and this is something that's always been a part of all the regions. I think the other two egregious ones were Sumru, in which we only had Tighnari and basically Dendro, MC and Kole, so you didn't really had a lot of Dendro choices. And it also was the same with the lunar reactions. You had to get an Effa, otherwise you kind of started off on a bit of a back foot with those reactions, and certainly the way they set up and created the enemies wasn't fun at all. But I think now with Snezhnaya, they found a very good medium, or like a happy middle, in which case you can still go for the premium units. They'll obviously give you, hopefully, better performance, but I think by how the Genshin devs have probably learned to balance the game, you should. But other than that, you have your older units that now mean you can have a lot more fun, a lot more longevity to your gameplay, and it also means you can experiment a bit more. So I think a lot of people certainly appreciate it. It also means that certain enemy mechanics that are stellar glimmer or stellar conduct locked out, or in other words, you need, I think there's a boss in Snezhnaya where if you don't have these stellar reactions, they'll just keep on healing themselves immortally or something like that. You need the stellar reactions to kind of disable them. So it's kind of cool that you have extra options, like even when you're going through the overworld. So overall, pretty happy on all of that. And yeah, hopefully you guys have maybe taken a bit of inspiration from some of the things I've shown in the video, some of the build suggestions. As always, for builds and these things, consult multiple theory crafters, see what multiple people do, because sometimes some people will come up with some very good creative solutions. I won't pretend I know it all, because I certainly don't. I'm not playing Genshin to that very competitive or almost like professional level as I maybe have used to do in the past, when it was COVID and we had literally nothing else to do. For me, this is all just about sharing the vibes and sharing some of the things that I feel I've seen in the game. So certainly, currently, the vibes are very positive, and hopefully this can keep on going. Hopefully the meta is not just going to be you either have the Tsaritsa or you kind of suck. So yeah, let's keep an eye out for that. But if it does change, I'll definitely be calling it out. Alright, that's what I have to share in today's video. Thank you so much for watching.